The following series is dedicated to 4 different entities. And first of all, I'm going to call this my intuition series. Now, my intuition series is dedicated to a contact. She's really into the sexual empowerment and sexual expression and body expression for women. And so I want to actually be able to communicate my 20 years experience of actually researching sexual expression, especially the Black women's sexual expression. And hopefully I can bestow some of my experience onto a new generation that seems to be taking this body expression to a different stratosphere. The second entity that I'd like to dedicate this series to is number 1. I'm coming up on my 25-year anniversary of having a real-life hallucination with, I call it a spiritual being. I was in a room, my buddy Dan Friedman's house, after I got arrested for singing on the bus, which is a whole nother story in itself. But while I was in the room and all I had was a little marijuana that night, I saw a collage of hundreds of women, Black women, who were oozing creativity, like their bodies were like merging. It was an organism, and they were chanting the power of a woman. And I remember that night so clearly because I was like a kid in a candy store and they were basically select one. And I was like, okay, I'm going to select a pretty woman right here. And she called herself number 1. And for the next, I guess 10 years, 8, 9, 10 years, she was my spiritual guide. Never led me wrong. And it wasn't until I got real deep into some of my sexual conquests that she left. So this is dedicated number 1. We're coming up on 25 years since that moment. Another 25-year milestone is the Magic Johnson announcement. We'll be discussing my perception, my intuition of what I feel has taken place. That never have really set right with me. And so I'm going to express it during this series. And the final piece that we're going to actually be discussing in this intuition series is the, what was that guy's name in Minnesota that actually got shot? Castile? There we go. Yeah, I'm going to be discussing that too and how I feel that that was nonfiction. So now we're going to get into intuition. I would say intuition is one of the most powerful, I wouldn't say weapons, but sources from a human being that they can use on this planet. And you have to understand the history of intuition, especially if you look at the Western world. You see, intuition in sports is what allowed those athletes to do those miraculous plays because they're in the zone and they're gone beyond their minds.
As soon as Manning thinks it, then you see it. Highlights, updates, and scores at the speed of light.
They've gone beyond physical limitations and they get into a whole different world where time slows down. Because the mind works at 24 seconds a frame, 24 thoughts per second. But when you get into intuition, you get into the super stratosphere of trillions of thoughts per second. So if you can imagine when you're shooting at 60 frames a second and you play it back at 24 frames a second, you have a slow motion effect. That's essentially when we get out of our mind perspective, when we get into our intuition or in the zone perspective, things slow down. And we experience this physical reality from a different perspective. Now, see, when we get into intuition and we understand where women are today as far as their sexual expression, we got to go back to the Catholic Church. And you have to understand that the Catholic Church murdered millions of women for expressing their intuition, for just knowing things without having any physical evidence to back up. That was the witchcraft that they would essentially assign to women and accuse them of, so they can wipe the planet of intuition. They would go conquest, colonialize a whole different area, throw in their Catholic religion, and they will wipe out intuition. They did this to all the aborigines in all the lands that they conquered. And it's kind of ironic because that was the message of Jesus. You don't need any filter, you don't need any go-between, you don't need any liaison for you to communicate with God, for you to communicate with the higher power. We kind of have flipped the script and said, whoa, Jesus is the only Son of God, and what does that make us? And that we need to go through the Catholic Church or the priest in order to have this communication with God. Oh, we also have to give our tithes too. Remember that now. But Jesus was like, no, we're all the sons and daughters of God. And it's your inalienable right to communicate directly with your higher self, your higher power. You are God. But when the Catholic Church wiped out intuition and they put women on the stakes of fire, and they scared the rest of humanity from practicing intuition. But we paid these sports guys millions of dollars for their expression of physical intuition, their zone. So now what happened after we wiped out intuition, especially among women? We created a new paradigm, a new reward system, a new beauty standard. I'm laughing because look at today's beauty standards. You have a weak, feeble, skinny, thin, malnutrition, dependent, delicate. We put them so delicate they're on a pedestal. They're so delicate they can't even breastfeed their children. And we call that beauty standards. And then we project that all over the world with this kind of fiction animation. And within this fiction animation, we reward these women with the beautiful clothes, the beautiful attire, the things we adore. And then we give them millions of dollars to parade down a runway. We give them the most successful athletes and most successful husbands, and we make the rest of the world follow this fictionist standards. That is today's standards of beauty. But conversely, when women were intuitive, they were connected, they were healers, they were nurturers. And yes, they used sex to heal and give pleasure and to give birth, amongst many things. But they were well-revolved people, well-revolved individuals. They had a complete cycle. They weren't just one-dimensional. So when we look at some of these sexual standards that are being propagated all over the news, all over the media, we're just seeing a one-dimensional entity of the complete human being or the complete potential of a woman. Again, the power of a woman. I'm waiting for you, number one. The power of a woman. And see, the power of a woman is a complete woman. A woman that not only has some sexual expressions, but she's in tune with nature. She's connected with nature. She has a knowing with nature. She's connected to God. She knows God. She feels God. She heals through God. She is God. That's what's missing out of the equation here. The complete essence of a woman. And so now we have this kind of fragmented, conflicted, one-dimensional expression, and we're only attracted and present in the body. And here's the strange thing about our body expression in today's world. They say the mind, the language of the mind is thoughts, and the language of the body is feelings. And where does intuition come from? Feelings, your gut feelings. So we flip the script and we've programmed women to get their feelings from how other people see them instead of how they can feel internally with God, and they communicate with God and how they feel, and they just know. And they would practice that knowing onto the rest of the world. We've got it backwards. We keep getting women to try to rise up to this lower standards of men's behavior of really just sexualizing and objectifying women. And now women are objectifying themselves so they can be considered equal. No, this paradigm of what men are actually expressing is not equality. It's not something to rise up to. What I'm saying here is that the intuitive, natural nature of femininity is what's missing. The power of a woman is her feelings, her connectivity to her higher self. It's a natural connectivity. And this is what I'm practicing as we see this series move on. Do you see how the little series came on when I said series? She thought I said Sirius or whatever that name is. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Well, let Sirius listen in so that the processing of that computer can keep up with the processing that's going on in my intuitive nature. See, that's what it's really all about. When you're in your intuitive nature, when you're in your zone, you're calculating at trillions of possibilities per second. So don't think that supercomputer is more powerful than the human computer, than the human capacity. Because right now we're just living in the mind state of mind, and the mind has a lot of fears, and it has a lot of questions, and it has a lot of reasons. But when you get out of that mind zone, guess what you get into? You get into God's zone. And God lives in an infinite perspective with infinite possibilities. I'm gonna conclude this with what I tell myself every single day. Some days I forget, but this is what I tell myself every single day. I am infinitely teleported, regenerative, abundancies nourished with love. I am infinitely teleporting, regenerative, abundancies nourished with love. I am infinitely teleporting, regenerative, abundancies nourished with love. Now you keep saying that statement to yourself on a daily basis. I guarantee you're going to bring in prosperity and abundancy because you are what you say. So let's get out of this one-dimensional perspective of who we think we are, what somebody is telling us who we are, and let's get into our heart, which has a lot more neurological thought process than this thing we call our mind, but that's a whole new different subject. But let's get into our God, our goddessness. I got all these little projects, man, they getting scared. I'm telling you, man, look at all these little devices getting scared by what I'm talking about. That's very interesting, don't you think? Peace.